A mosquito that perches on a testicle has no regard for its owner's sleep. The monkey who tries to dance like a peacock will only end up with a sore bottom. A crab cannot give birth to a bird, no matter how hard it flaps its pincers. The man who chases 2 rats at once ends up with an empty stomach. A hyena with a long neck still cannot reach the sweetest fruits. When an elephant decides to wrestle a mosquito, it should prepare for humiliation. The bird that boasts of its feathers will soon be plucked by fate. It is better to have a live dog than a dead lion's roar. The chicken that laughs at the monkey's bottom forgets its own awkward walk. The donkey that carries a load of sorrows cannot be trusted with a smile. Even a dancing antelope can trip over its own hooves. When a lizard nods at you, it doesn't mean it understands your woes. The frog that croaks all night learns the hard way about tired vocal cords. A tortoise that mocks a snail's speed may find itself overtaken by a crawling child. The sun may shine on a goat's behind, but it doesn't make it a unicorn. The foolish baboon may sit on a throne, but it remains a foolish baboon. A hen cannot teach an eagle how to fly, no matter how persuasive its clucking. The wise man never asks the moon for directions. When the lion is absent, the hyenas start to dance. The stubborn cow ends up with its nose tied to a tree. A leopard's spots cannot be washed away by the river. The monkey who climbs a tall tree may discover an empty nest. The baboon who imitates the lion's roar is bound to startle himself. An empty calabash makes the most noise in the village square. A fool throws a stone into the river, and 100 wise men can't find it. A drum without a rhythm is just noise in the ears of the wise. The dog that barks at the moon invites laughter from the stars. A mosquito that lands on a lion's nose will soon regret its thirst. The goat with a beard has more wisdom than the chicken with a crown. A wise woman can silence a roaring lion with a single word. A snake that bites its own tail invites chaos into its own den. The donkey that longs for wings will be disappointed by the height of the trees. The bird that flutters from tree to tree still cannot escape the hunter's gaze. A leopard cannot change its spots, no matter how colorful they may be. The fool who dances on a thorn-covered path will soon feel the pain. When the lion sleeps, even the ants grow bold. The bird that flies at night must be careful not to mistake a firefly for the moon. The crocodile that smiles invites the curious monkey to its funeral. The snail that dreams of wings will never taste the freedom of the skies. A wise man knows that the ear of a corn is not the whole cob. The monkey that tries to peel a banana with a hammer will only make a mess. The hen that sings in the morning gets breakfast, while the lazy rooster sleeps. A fish that leaves the water to climb a tree will soon suffocate in its own ambition. The tree that does not bend during the storm will break with a loud crack. The frog that jumps into a deep well may never know the vastness of the ocean. A wise owl perched on a tall tree sees the folly of the world below. The chameleon that changes colors to blend in may lose its own identity. The tortoise that stays silent avoids getting caught in the hare's boastful words. The donkey that carries the load does not feel the weight until it is removed. The chicken that follows the footsteps of a hawk will soon be devoured. The baboon that sits by the riverbank may never learn to swim. The ant that steals a lion's whisker still remains an ant. The fly that dances in the cow's eye will taste the sting of its tail. The river may flow, but the fish know the depth of its secrets. A wise man follows the path of the elephant, not the snake. The lion may be king of the jungle, but the elephant never pays tribute. The goat that climbs the mountain cannot complain about thin air. A leopard cannot outrun its own spots, even with the wind at its back. The bird that builds its nest on a crocodile's back lives in constant danger. The wise tortoise knows that patience can defeat even the fastest hare. The moon may shine, but it still depends on the sun for its light. The snake that tries to swallow an elephant will only choke on its own ambition. The bee that stings without cause will find its own hive in flames. The rooster that crows in the night confuses the dawn and invites ridicule. The mouse that challenges a cat to a duel must have a death wish. The goat that shares its pasture with the lion has a short lifespan. A wise man understands that a forest full of monkeys is still just a forest. The fish that swims against the current discovers its own strength. The grasshopper that sings in the dry season invites hunger to its doorstep. The monkey that copies a lion's roar still sounds like a monkey. The elephant does not limp to hide its strength. It limps because it has a wound. A wise man does not dance in the rain unless he wants to get wet. The spider that weaves its web on a broomstick will be swept away. The bird that builds its nest with borrowed twigs cannot call it truly its own. The wise owl asks questions, while the foolish parrot repeats empty words. The crocodile that waits for a limping gazelle may go hungry for days. The sun does not need to prove its brilliance. It simply shines. The snake that swallows an egg may find itself crushed by a protective mother. The donkey that envies the horse's speed forgets its own sturdy legs. A wise man knows that even a tasty termite cannot replace a delicious meal. The monkey that climbs a tall tree to see the ocean may be disappointed by the view. The crab that tries to dance like a seahorse will only embarrass itself. The antelope that boasts of its speed will find itself outrun by the wind. The owl that blinks in daylight invites confusion and laughter. A fool who digs a hole for others falls into it himself. The tree that bends with the wind survives the storm. The stiff one gets uprooted. The spider that weaves a web in a lion's den must be either brave or foolish. A wise man does not throw stones at a beehive. He knows the consequences. The lizard that challenges a crocodile to a swimming race is destined for failure. The gazelle that brags about its grace may trip over its own hooves. The bird that flies too close to the sun risks getting its wings burned. The snake that coils around an elephant's leg should prepare for a mighty stomp. The rooster that crows in the lion's presence is either very brave or very foolish. The monkey that swings from branch to branch may end up with a sore tail. The elephant that chases butterflies risks stepping on a thorn. The fish that lives in muddy waters never knows the beauty of a clear pond. The chicken that cackles loudly may attract the attention of the hungry fox. The tree that grows in the middle of the path may find itself chopped down. The ant that challenges an elephant to a weightlifting contest is bound to lose. The crocodile that swims against the current is often mistaken for a floating log. The monkey that reaches for the moon will be disappointed when it grabs a handful of air. The bird that sings in the rain invites the worms to a symphony. The snake that bites its own tail ends up in a tangled mess. The wise baboon knows that the river is not just a source of water, it is a source of life. The lion that roars too much is ignored by its own pride. The cricket that challenges an elephant to a jump contest should expect a crushing defeat. The tree that forgets its roots cannot stand tall in the face of adversity. The monkey that tries to peel a banana with its feet will only make a sticky mess. The goat that laughs at the lion's mane forgets the sharpness of its own horns. The elephant that follows a mouse's path will find itself lost in a maze. The bird that sings before the sunrise invites the darkness to linger. The crocodile that opens its mouth too wide risks getting its snout stuck. The wise tortoise knows that a race against the wind is futile. The monkey that imitates a leopard's spots only ends up looking foolish. The rooster that crows at midnight confuses the moon and the sun. The fish that leaps out of the water should be wary of the hungry eagle. The snake that tries to shed its skin in one swift motion may tear itself apart. The cricket that challenges a lion to a singing contest should expect to be silenced. The tree that stands alone in the desert longs for the company of an oasis. The owl that tries to catch the sun in its talons will only end up blind. The antelope that brags about its speed invites the lion's pursuit. The monkey that tries to ride an elephant will soon find itself on the ground. The wise fish swims with the current, while the foolish one swims against it. The crocodile that boasts of its strength forgets the power of the river's current. The bird that flies too close to the fire risks its feathers being singed. The snake that tries to walk like a peacock will only stumble on its own tail. The cricket that challenges a donkey to a jumping contest should expect a comical outcome. The tree that reaches for the stars forgets the importance of its own roots. The wise baboon knows that a river cannot be tamed, only respected. The lion that tries to roar underwater invites ridicule from the fish. The bird that sings in a storm may find itself carried away by the wind. The crocodile that chases its own tail only ends up going in circles. The tortoise that races against a hare will learn the value of steady progress. The monkey that paints its face like a zebra is still just a monkey. The rooster that crows at dusk confuses the day and night. The fish that swims too close to the surface may find itself caught by a fisherman's net. The snake that tries to slither like a snail will find itself left behind. The cricket that challenges a whale to a singing contest should expect a deafening response. The tree that reaches for the clouds forgets the nourishment of its own roots. The owl that tries to catch a rainbow in its talons will find only elusive colors. The antelope that brags about its agility invites the cheetah's chase. The monkey that mimics a lion's roar only ends up sounding like a squeaky toy. The rooster that crows during a solar eclipse confuses day and night. The fish that swims too close to the shore may end up in a fisherman's net. The snake that tries to shed its skin before its time risks being trapped in its old self. The cricket that challenges a lion to a singing contest should expect to be overpowered. The tree that stands alone in a desert yearns for the companionship of a forest. The crocodile that tries to catch the moon in its jaws ends up biting at air. The bird that flies against a hurricane will be swept away by its fury. The monkey that attempts to ride a rhinoceros will find itself in a heap of trouble. The wise fish knows that swimming with the current saves energy and time. The snake that boasts of its venom forgets the mongoose's deadly speed. The tree that grows without a solid trunk will collapse under its own weight. The owl that reaches for a falling star finds only darkness in its talons. The cricket that challenges a choir of nightingales to a singing contest will be drowned out. The monkey that paints itself like a zebra is still just a monkey in disguise. The rooster that crows at twilight confuses the arrival of dawn and dusk. The fish that leaps too high attracts the attention of the hungry pelican. The snake that tries to shed its skin in a hurry risks leaving fragments behind. The cricket that challenges a lioness to a singing contest should expect to be silenced. The tree that stands alone in a desolate land yearns for the embrace of a forest. The crocodile that attempts to catch the lightning in its jaws ends up empty-handed. The bird that flies against a tornado risks being tossed and turned in the violent winds. The monkey that dreams of riding an elephant should remember that dreams are not reality. The wise fish knows that swimming with the current leads to smoother journeys. The snake that brags about its venom attracts the mongoose's deadly gaze. The tree that grows without a sturdy trunk bends and breaks in the face of adversity. The baboon that mimics a lion's roar only fools itself and its fellow baboons. The donkey that tries to sing like a nightingale ends up braying in discord. The chicken that challenges a hawk to a flying race is bound to lose its feathers. The ant that carries a grain of sand on its back thinks it's carrying a mountain. The goat that tries to climb a tree like a monkey will only succeed in making a fool of itself. The lion that boasts of its strength may awaken the sleeping elephant. The tortoise that dreams of flying forgets the joy of a slow and steady journey. The spider that weaves its web on a moving cart should prepare for a bumpy ride. The rooster that tries to bark like a dog will only confuse the farmyard. The bird that attempts to swim like a fish will soon find itself gasping for air. The fish that challenges a shark to a swimming race will be left in its wake. The elephant that imitates a mouse's squeak only raises laughter from the forest. The monkey that tries to hoot like an owl ends up sounding like a screeching banshee. The antelope that believes it can outrun a cheetah will soon become its prey. The tree that reaches for the moon neglects the beauty of its own blossoms. The owl that tries to catch a shooting star may be left grasping at stardust. The snake that attempts to slither on ice will find itself slipping and sliding. The cricket that challenges a mockingbird to a singing contest should expect to be mocked. The baboon that dances in the rain forgets that wet fur is heavy and uncomfortable. The donkey that dreams of being a racehorse will always be left in the dust. The chicken that tries to swim like a duck will soon find itself in deep water. The ant that challenges an elephant to a weightlifting competition is crushed by its own ambition. The goat that brags about its horns may find itself caught in a tangle of thorns. The lion that imitates a hyena's laugh only ends up sounding like a sick buffalo. The tortoise that aspires to be a butterfly forgets the wisdom of its own shell. The spider that weaves its web on a broom invites a swift and unexpected flight. The rooster that tries to imitate a peacock's dance only embarrasses itself with clumsy moves. The bird that attempts to crawl like a worm will never reach the heights of the sky. The fish that challenges a whale to a swimming contest will disappear in its vast shadow. The elephant that envies a gazelle's grace forgets the power of its majestic stride. The monkey that believes it can outsmart a fox will soon become a victim of cunning. The antelope that boasts of its horns may find itself entangled in a thicket. The tree that stretches too far neglects its own roots and risks toppling over. The owl that tries to catch the wind in its talons is left with nothing but empty air. The snake that mimics a squirrel's antics only fools itself and its fellow reptiles. The cricket that challenges a choir of canaries to a singing contest should prepare for chirping perfection. The baboon that paints itself like a zebra is still just a hairy baboon in disguise. The donkey that dreams of being a race car will always be stuck in first gear. The chicken that tries to climb a tree like a monkey will end up with a broken wing. The ant that challenges a beetle to a weightlifting competition is crushed by its own ambition. The goat that imitates a lion's roar only produces a comical bleating sound. The lion that envies a leopard's spots forgets the power of its own majestic mane. The tortoise that tries to fly like a bird will find itself grounded in reality. The spider that weaves its web on a tornado is quickly swept away in the chaos. The rooster that mimics a duck's quack only confuses the farmyard animals. The bird that dreams of swimming like a fish forgets the freedom of the open sky. The fish that challenges a dolphin to a swimming race will be left behind in the waves. The elephant that attempts to hop like a kangaroo is reminded of its own mighty stomp. The monkey that imitates a parrot's speech only produces garbled and nonsensical sounds. The antelope that brags about its speed may trip over its own hooves in haste. The tree that reaches for the stars forgets the beauty of its own leafy canopy. The owl that tries to catch the moon in its beak is left with an empty sky. The snake that attempts to slither on a slippery slope only ends up in a tangled mess. The cricket that challenges a sparrow to a singing contest should expect to be outshone. The baboon that dances in the rain forgets to seek shelter and catches a cold. The donkey that dreams of being a racehorse will forever be left in the dust. The chicken that tries to swim like a fish ends up flapping its wings in vain. The ant that challenges an elephant to a weightlifting contest is crushed by the weight of its own dreams. The goat that brags about its horns may find itself tangled in a thorny bush. The lion that imitates a hyena's laughter only raises eyebrows among its pride. The tortoise that aspires to fly like a bird forgets the strength of its own perseverance. The spider that weaves its web on a moving train is bound to lose its carefully crafted creation. The rooster that tries to imitate a peacock's dance ends up stumbling and tripping. The bird that attempts to crawl like a worm only makes a spectacle of itself. The fish that challenges a whale to a swimming race will be left in the wake of its greatness. The elephant that envies a gazelle's agility forgets the power of its own mighty stride. The monkey that believes it can outsmart a fox will soon find itself outwitted. The antelope that boasts of its horns may get them entangled in a thorny predicament. The tree that stretches too far risks losing its balance and falling to the ground. The owl that tries to catch the wind in its talons finds itself grasping at nothing but air. The snake that mimics a squirrel's acrobatics only ends up in a tangled mess of branches. The cricket that challenges a chorus of robins to a singing contest should prepare for melodious defeat. The baboon that paints itself like a zebra is still just a baboon in disguise, fooling no one. The donkey that dreams of becoming a racehorse will always be left in the dust, braying in disappointment. The chicken that tries to climb a tree like a monkey will only succeed in looking foolish. The ant that challenges a beetle to a strength competition is soon buried under the weight of its own arrogance. The goat that imitates a lion's roar only ends up sounding like a bleating imitation. The lion that envies a leopard's spots forgets the beauty and power of its own majestic mane. The tortoise that tries to soar like an eagle will never escape the confines of its shell. The spider that weaves its web on a gusty day is left with a tangled mess and a lesson in futility. The rooster that mimics a duck's quack only creates confusion among the barnyard animals. The bird that dreams of swimming like a fish forgets the freedom and wonder of flying. The fish that challenges a dolphin to a race is left behind in the swift currents of the ocean. The elephant that attempts to hop like a kangaroo only succeeds in causing a rumble on the ground. The monkey that imitates a parrot's speech only produces a garbled and nonsensical chatter. The antelope that brags about its speed may stumble over its own hooves in haste. The tree that reaches for the stars forgets the beauty and shade it provides on the ground. The owl that tries to catch the moon in its beak is left with nothing but empty darkness. The snake that attempts to slither on a slippery surface finds itself sliding into an awkward position. The cricket that challenges a sparrow to a singing contest is soon drowned out by the melodious songbird. The baboon that dances in the rain forgets to seek shelter and ends up with a soaked fur. The donkey that dreams of being a racehorse will forever be left behind, plodding along at its own pace. The chicken that tries to swim like a fish ends up flapping and splashing in the water. The ant that challenges an elephant to a weightlifting competition is crushed under the weight of its own ambition. The goat that brags about its horns may find itself tangled in a thorny bush of its own making. The lion that imitates a hyena's laughter only creates confusion and amusement among its peers. The tortoise that aspires to fly like a bird forgets the beauty and strength of its own slow and steady journey. The spider that weaves its web on a moving vehicle is soon left with nothing but broken strands in its wake. The rooster that tries to imitate a peacock's dance only ends up looking foolish and out of rhythm. The bird that attempts to crawl like a worm finds itself struggling and flapping in the dirt.